Some heroes carry badges, others wear uniforms, but in a small blood donation center in Sydney, Australia, one hero simply rolled up his sleeve. James Harrison looked like any other donor that morning in 1966, settling into the familiar chair for what he thought would be a routine appointment. The needle slid into his arm with practiced ease, crimson flowing through clear tubing into sterile bags. What flowed through that tubing would change the course of medical history. When laboratory technicians analyzed Harrison's blood, they discovered something extraordinary. His plasma contained rare antibodies that could prevent a devastating disease killing thousands of newborns each year. In medical circles, they called it Rhesus disease. To grieving families, it was simply the nightmare that turned healthy pregnancies into tragedies. Harrison's blood held the key to stopping it. This isn't just another medical breakthrough story. This is the account of how one railway worker's weekly commitment over 6 decades would save more than 2.4 million babies worldwide. They called him the man with the golden arm. But James Harrison's true treasure wasn't gold. It was the liquid salvation flowing through his veins. James Christopher Harrison was born on December 27, 1936, in the working-class suburbs of Sydney, the son of a railway employee. James followed his father's footsteps into the New South Wales government railways, spending his days maintaining the tracks that carried passengers across Australia's vast continent. His calloused hands and weathered face spoke of years working under the harsh Australian sun, repairing signals and replacing worn rails. At 18, Harrison faced a medical crisis that would unknowingly set him on the path to becoming one of medicine's most valuable donors. Doctors discovered he needed major chest surgery to remove part of his lung, a procedure that required multiple blood transfusions. As Harrison lay in the hospital bed, receiving blood from anonymous donors who had saved his life, he made a quiet promise. He would donate his own blood to help others, just as strangers had helped him. Harrison began donating regularly at the Red Cross Blood Service Center in Sydney. For years, his donations followed the standard pattern: blood drawn, processed, distributed to hospitals across New South Wales. He was reliable, showing up every few weeks without fail, arm extended, ready to give. Technicians knew him by name, chatting about cricket scores and railway gossip while his blood flowed into collection bags. But in 1966, routine testing revealed something that would transform Harrison from an ordinary donor into a medical marvel. His blood tested positive for a rare antibody called anti-D, found in less than 1% of the population. More remarkably, Harrison's blood contained extraordinarily high levels of this antibody, making his plasma incredibly valuable for medical research. The discovery came at a critical time. Rhesus disease was claiming thousands of newborn lives annually. When Rh-negative mothers carried Rh-positive babies, their immune systems could attack the unborn child's blood cells, causing severe anemia, brain damage, or death. Medical researchers had been searching desperately for a way to prevent this tragedy. Harrison's blood provided the answer. His anti-D antibodies could be processed into an immunoglobulin injection, preventing Rh-negative mothers from developing antibodies that would attack future pregnancies. The railway worker who had once needed blood to survive would now provide the key ingredient to save countless others. The medical significance of James Harrison's blood lay in the complex interaction between blood types that most people never think about. Every person carries either Rh-positive or Rh-negative blood, determined by the presence or absence of specific proteins on red blood cell surfaces. This difference, discovered in the 1940s, seemed minor until doctors realized its devastating potential during pregnancy. When an Rh-negative mother carries an Rh-positive baby, her immune system may recognize the baby's blood as foreign. During childbirth or pregnancy complications, the mother's blood can mix with the baby's, triggering her immune system to produce antibodies against Rh-positive blood. This process, called sensitization, usually doesn't affect the first pregnancy. The real danger comes with subsequent pregnancies. If the sensitized mother becomes pregnant with another Rh-positive baby, her antibodies cross the placental barrier and attack the unborn child's blood cells. The result is hemolytic disease of the newborn, formerly called erythroblastosis fetalis. Babies born with this condition suffer severe anemia, jaundice, brain damage, or death. Before effective treatment, the disease killed approximately 10,000 babies annually worldwide and left thousands more with permanent disabilities. Medical researchers understood the mechanism but struggled to find a prevention method. The breakthrough came with the discovery that injecting Rh-negative mothers with anti-D immunoglobulin could prevent sensitization. The immunoglobulin would bind to any Rh-positive blood cells from the baby before the mother's immune system could recognize them, preventing antibody production. But creating anti-D immunoglobulin required a steady supply of plasma from donors who had already developed the antibodies. These donors needed to be Rh-negative individuals who had been sensitized through pregnancy or transfusion. Harrison's blood contained unusually high levels of anti-D antibodies, likely developed through his multiple transfusions during chest surgery. The concentration of antibodies in Harrison's plasma was remarkable. While most sensitized donors provided modest antibody levels, Harrison's blood yielded enough anti-D to protect hundreds of women from each donation. Laboratory technicians had never seen such consistently high antibody titers in a single donor. His blood was literally worth more than its weight in gold for pharmaceutical companies developing anti-D immunoglobulin. Processing Harrison's plasma into medicine required sophisticated techniques. Scientists separated his plasma from red blood cells, then isolated the specific antibodies through careful filtration and purification. The resulting immunoglobulin went through rigorous safety testing before being packaged into doses that would prevent Rhesus disease. Each batch carried the potential to save dozens of babies from a preventable tragedy. The Australian Red Cross Blood Service recognized the extraordinary value of James Harrison's donations and moved quickly to establish a specialized program around his unique gift. Traditional blood donation operated on a fairly casual schedule, with donors coming in when convenient. Harrison's situation demanded a more systematic approach. His plasma was too valuable to leave to chance. Medical administrators worked with Harrison to establish a regular donation schedule that would maximize the yield of anti-D antibodies while protecting his health. Unlike whole blood donation, which required weeks between donations for the donor's recovery, plasma donation could be performed more frequently. Harrison agreed to donate every few weeks, turning his commitment to helping others into a precise medical protocol. The blood service invested in specialized equipment to handle Harrison's donations. Plasmapheresis machines separated his plasma from red blood cells, returning the cells to his body while collecting the antibody-rich plasma. This process allowed Harrison to donate more frequently without depleting his red blood cell count, maximizing the production of life-saving immunoglobulin. Quality control became paramount. Every donation underwent extensive testing to verify antibody levels and ensure the plasma met pharmaceutical standards. Laboratory technicians tracked the potency of Harrison's anti-D antibodies over time, adjusting collection schedules to optimize yield. His plasma was treated with the same care as precious metals, stored in temperature-controlled facilities and processed under sterile conditions. The program expanded beyond simple collection to include comprehensive health monitoring for Harrison. Regular medical examinations ensured that frequent donations weren't compromising his well-being. Nutritional counseling helped him maintain the protein levels necessary for healthy plasma production. The blood service treated Harrison not just as a donor, but as a partner in a life-saving medical program. Research partnerships emerged as pharmaceutical companies recognized the potential of Harrison's plasma. Commonwealth Serum Laboratories, Australia's government-owned vaccine manufacturer, worked closely with the blood service to develop efficient processing techniques. International collaborations shared Australian expertise with medical programs worldwide, spreading the benefits of anti-D immunoglobulin globally. Documentation became crucial as the program matured. Detailed records tracked every donation, processing batch, and final product distribution. This paperwork trail would later prove essential for calculating the total impact of Harrison's contributions. Each vial of anti-D immunoglobulin could be traced back through the manufacturing process to specific donations from the man with the golden arm. Training programs educated medical professionals about the proper use of anti-D immunoglobulin. Obstetricians learned to identify at-risk pregnancies and administer preventive injections at critical moments. Laboratory technicians mastered blood typing techniques that would identify mothers needing protection. The infrastructure built around Harrison's donations created a comprehensive system for preventing Rhesus disease. The program's success attracted international attention. Medical delegations visited Australia to study the collection and processing techniques developed around Harrison's unique donations. Countries worldwide began establishing their own anti-D programs, often using Australian expertise and equipment. Harrison's blood had become the foundation for a global medical initiative. James Harrison approached his role as a life-saving donor with the same methodical dedication he brought to maintaining railway tracks. Every few weeks, he would finish his shift with the New South Wales Government Railways, wash the grease and dirt from his hands, and drive to the Red Cross Blood Service Centre in Sydney. His routine never varied. Arrive on time, check in with familiar staff, settle into the donation chair, and extend his arm for the needle. The donation process became as familiar to Harrison as operating railroad equipment. Technicians would insert the plasmapheresis needle into his arm, connecting him to machines that would separate his plasma from red blood cells over the course of an hour. Harrison passed the time reading railway magazines, chatting with staff about cricket matches, or simply watching other donors come and go. He never seemed impatient with the process, treating each donation as simply another job that needed doing properly. Harrison maintained his health with the same diligence he applied to maintaining railroad infrastructure. He understood that his body was now a crucial piece of medical equipment, requiring proper care and maintenance. His diet included plenty of protein to support plasma production, and he stayed hydrated before each donation. He avoided alcohol before appointments and made sure to get adequate sleep. When minor illnesses struck, Harrison would postpone donations rather than risk compromising the quality of his plasma. The blood service staff came to depend on Harrison's reliability. Unlike many donors who might skip appointments or donate irregularly, Harrison treated his schedule as sacred. He arranged his railway shifts around donation appointments, never missing a session without advance notice. During Australia's summer holidays, when many donors traveled or became unavailable, Harrison continued his regular routine, ensuring steady production of anti-D immunoglobulin. Over the years, Harrison developed relationships with the medical technicians and nurses who handled his donations. They knew about his railway work, his family, and his quiet pride in contributing to medical science. He learned their names, asked about their families, and brought small gifts during holidays. The blood center became a second community for Harrison, a place where his unique gift was understood and valued. Harrison rarely discussed his donations with friends or family. He viewed the process as private, personal commitment rather than something requiring public recognition. When co-workers at the railway asked about his regular medical appointments, Harrison would mention donating blood, but rarely elaborated on the special nature of his plasma. Modesty and privacy were as much a part of his character as reliability and dedication. The financial aspects of donation never motivated Harrison, while plasma donors in some countries received payment for their contributions. Australia's system relied on voluntary donation. Harrison never sought compensation for his time or plasma, viewing his contributions as repayment for the blood transfusions that had saved his life decades earlier. He donated out of gratitude and civic duty, not for personal gain. As medical technology improved, the donation process became more efficient and comfortable. New plasmapheresis machines reduced collection time and minimized discomfort. Harrison adapted to these changes with characteristic pragmatism, appreciating improvements that made the process smoother while maintaining his focus on the ultimate purpose of saving lives. Harrison's commitment deepened over time rather than waning. As he learned more about the babies saved by anti-D immunoglobulin, his dedication to regular donations strengthened. Each session represented not just an hour of his time, but potentially dozens of lives saved from Rhesus disease. This knowledge sustained Harrison through decades of routine appointments, transforming a simple medical procedure into a profound expression of human compassion. The true measure of James Harrison's gift wasn't found in laboratory reports or pharmaceutical production numbers. It lived in hospital maternity wards across Australia, where mothers held healthy babies who might not have survived without anti-D immunoglobulin derived from his plasma. Each success story represented a tragedy prevented, a family kept whole by the quiet dedication of the man with the golden arm. Margaret Thompson learned about the importance of Harrison's blood during her second pregnancy in 1974. Her first child had been born healthy, but blood tests revealed that Margaret was Rh negative, carrying an Rh positive baby. Without intervention, her immune system would develop antibodies that could attack future pregnancies. Her obstetrician administered anti-D immunoglobulin derived from Harrison's plasma, preventing sensitization that could have been fatal to subsequent children. Margaret went on to have 3 more healthy children, never knowing that a railway worker's blood donation had made her family possible. Dr. Patricia Walsh, an obstetrician at Royal Hospital for Women in Sydney, witnessed the transformation that anti-D immunoglobulin brought to maternal care. Before the treatment became available, she had delivered too many babies who died from Rhesus disease, their tiny bodies unable to survive the severe anemia caused by their mother's antibodies. The availability of preventive treatment eliminated these tragedies from her practice. Dr. Walsh remembered one particularly heartbreaking case from the early 1960s, before Harrison's plasma became available. Sarah Collins had lost her second baby to Rhesus disease, despite weeks of intensive care. When Sarah became pregnant again, Dr. Walsh knew the odds were against another healthy birth. But by then, anti-D immunoglobulin had become available. Sarah received the injection and delivered a healthy son who grew up to become a teacher. 3 generations of the Collins family owed their existence to medical advances made possible by Harrison's donations. The impact extended beyond individual families to entire medical practices. Pediatric intensive care units that had once been filled with babies suffering from severe anemia and brain damage related to Rhesus disease saw these cases virtually disappear. Nurses who had spent their careers caring for sick newborns watched in amazement as preventable tragedies became medical history. International adoption of anti-D immunoglobulin multiplied the impact of Harrison's contributions far beyond Australia's borders. Countries throughout Europe, North America, and Asia established their own Rhesus disease prevention programs, many using techniques and protocols developed around Harrison's donations. Pharmaceutical companies worldwide began producing anti-D immunoglobulin, creating a global supply that saved lives on every continent. Statistical analysis revealed the staggering scope of Harrison's contribution. By the 1980s, Australian health authorities calculated that immunoglobulin derived from his plasma had prevented Rhesus disease in over 100,000 pregnancies. As international programs expanded, these numbers grew exponentially. Conservative estimates suggested that Harrison's blood had contributed to saving more than 1 million babies worldwide. Real families put faces on these statistics. The Mitchell family in Melbourne had 4 healthy children because anti-D immunoglobulin prevented sensitization during the mother's first pregnancy. The Rodriguez family in Spain welcomed their twins safely because their mother received preventive treatment developed from Australian plasma protocols. The Chen family in Hong Kong celebrated their daughter's first birthday, a milestone that might not have occurred without advances in Rhesus disease prevention. Medical conferences began featuring presentations on the success of Rhesus disease prevention programs. Obstetricians shared data showing dramatic reductions in infant mortality and morbidity related to blood type incompatibility. The transformation was so complete that many young doctors training in the 1980s had never seen a case of severe Rhesus disease, a testament to the effectiveness of prevention protocols built around donors like Harrison. James Harrison's blood donations catalyzed advances far beyond the immediate production of anti-D immunoglobulin. His unique plasma became the foundation for a revolution in preventive maternal medicine that transformed obstetric care worldwide. The success of Rhesus disease prevention demonstrated the power of targeted immunotherapy, inspiring research into similar approaches for other pregnancy complications. Medical researchers studying Harrison's plasma made discoveries that advanced the broader understanding of immunology and blood banking. The high concentration of antibodies in his blood provided opportunities to study immune responses in unprecedented detail. Scientists learned new techniques for antibody purification and processing that improved the safety and effectiveness of blood products across multiple medical applications. The blood products as find infrastructure developed to handle Harrison's donations became a model for specialized donor programs worldwide. Blood banks established protocols for identifying, monitoring, and managing donors with rare or valuable blood characteristics. These systems later proved essential for collecting other specialized blood products, including factors needed to treat hemophilia and immunoglobulins for various immune deficiency conditions. Training programs developed around Rhesus disease prevention created a generation of medical professionals skilled in preventive maternal care. Obstetricians learned to identify at-risk pregnancies early and intervene before problems developed. Laboratory technicians mastered blood typing techniques that could detect potential incompatibilities. Nurses became experts in counseling families about blood type risks and preventive treatments. International collaboration flourished as countries shared expertise developed through programs like Australia's Anti-D initiative. Medical conferences featured presentations on Harrison's case and similar donors in other countries. Research partnerships crossed national boundaries, creating a global network of specialists working to prevent pregnancy-related blood disorders. This cooperation accelerated advances in maternal medicine and improved outcomes for families worldwide. Pharmaceutical companies invested heavily in developing new production techniques inspired by the success of anti-D immunoglobulin. Manufacturing processes became more efficient and standardized, reducing costs and increasing availability of life-saving treatments. Quality control procedures developed for processing Harrison's plasma became industry standards that improved the safety of all blood-derived medications. Educational campaigns raised public awareness about blood donation and its life-saving potential. Harrison's story inspired thousands of Australians to become regular donors, understanding that their contributions could have profound impacts on medical care. Blood banks reported increased donor registration and retention as people learned about the connection between donation and prevented tragedies. Government health policies evolved to support comprehensive Rhesus disease prevention programs. Public funding covered the cost of anti-D immunoglobulin for all at-risk mothers, ensuring that economic barriers didn't prevent access to life-saving treatment. Healthcare systems integrated blood typing and preventive treatment into standard prenatal care protocols, making prevention automatic rather than optional. Research into other blood-related disorders accelerated as scientists applied lessons learned from studying Harrison's plasma. Work on autoimmune diseases, organ transplant rejection, and other immune system disorders benefited from techniques developed for processing anti-D immunoglobulin. The ripple effects of Harrison's donations spread through multiple fields of medical research. The success of Rhesus disease prevention became a powerful demonstration of how individual commitment could generate massive public health benefits. Health policy experts studied the Australian program as an example of effective preventive medicine, showing how relatively simple interventions could eliminate entire categories of medical problems. Harrison's story became a case study in the power of voluntary blood donation to transform medical outcomes. Fame was never something James Harrison sought. As word of his extraordinary contributions spread through medical circles and eventually reached the general public, Harrison found himself thrust into an unwelcome spotlight. Newspaper reporters called requesting interviews. Television producers wanted to feature his story, and medical organizations sought to honor his service. Harrison's response was characteristically understated. He was simply doing what needed to be done. The first major recognition came in 1978, when Harrison was awarded the Medal of the Order of Australia, one of the country's highest civilian honors. The citation praised his service to the community through blood donation. Harrison attended the ceremony at Government House in Sydney, wearing his best suit and looking visibly uncomfortable with the formal proceedings. When asked about the honor, he expressed gratitude but deflected attention to the medical professionals who had developed the treatment program. Media attention intensified during the 1980s as the full scope of Harrison's contribution became clear. Journalists discovered that his plasma had been used to create immunoglobulin that had saved hundreds of thousands of babies worldwide. The man with the golden arm became a popular subject for human interest stories. But Harrison remained reluctant to embrace celebrity status. He granted occasional interviews, but always emphasized that many people contributed to the success of Rhesus disease prevention. Harrison's resistance to publicity stemmed from his fundamental modesty and his practical understanding of the blood donation system. He worried that too much attention on his individual contribution might overshadow the importance of encouraging broad community participation in blood donation. Australia's blood supply depended on thousands of regular donors, and Harrison feared that focusing on his unique gift might make ordinary donors feel their contributions were less valuable. The Australian Red Cross Blood Service faced a delicate balance in promoting Harrison's story. His case demonstrated the profound impact that blood donation could have on public health, making him a powerful advocate for donor recruitment. However, Harrison's preference for privacy limited how extensively they could use his story in promotional campaigns. The organization respected his wishes while finding subtle ways to share his inspiring example. International medical conferences began featuring presentations on Harrison's case, but he rarely attended these events. Researchers would describe the phenomenal success of the Australian Anti-D program and credit Harrison's unique plasma contribution, but the man himself remained largely absent from the academic celebrations of his achievement. When he did appear at medical events, Harrison spoke briefly and modestly about the importance of community support for blood donation. Recognition from the medical community meant more to Harrison than public acclaim. When obstetricians and pediatricians thanked him for his role in preventing tragedies in their practices, Harrison felt genuine satisfaction. These private acknowledgments from healthcare professionals who understood the direct impact of his donations validated his decades of commitment more than any public ceremony. Harrison's family shared his preference for privacy. His wife and children supported his donation schedule but rarely discussed it outside the family. They were proud of his contribution but understood his desire to be known for more than just his unique blood. Harrison continued working for the railways throughout his donation career, finding satisfaction in both his professional responsibilities and his medical contributions. Despite his reluctance to seek attention, Harrison couldn't completely avoid recognition as his donation milestones accumulated. When he reached his 1,000th donation in the late 1990s, the milestone generated considerable media coverage. Harrison used the attention to emphasize the ongoing need for blood donors and the importance of supporting medical research, always redirecting focus from his individual achievement to broader community responsibility. The tension between Harrison's private nature and his public importance never fully resolved. He remained committed to his donation schedule regardless of recognition, viewing the medical contribution as personal obligation rather than public service. This authenticity made him even more compelling to those who learned his story, demonstrating that true heroism often comes from quiet dedication rather than seeking acclaim. On the 11th of May 2018, James Harrison walked into the Red Cross Blood Service Centre in Sydney for the final time as an active donor. At 81 years old, Australian regulations required him to retire from blood donation, ending a remarkable 60-year commitment that had saved an estimated 2.4 million babies worldwide. The man who had become a legend in medical circles sat in the familiar donation chair one last time, extending his golden arm for a final gift to humanity. The atmosphere in the donation center was bittersweet that Friday morning. Staff members who had worked with Harrison for decades gathered to witness his final contribution. Nurses who had inserted countless needles into his arm over the years handled this last donation with extra care. Laboratory technicians prepared to process his plasma with the same meticulous attention they had given every donation for 6 decades. Harrison's emotions remained as characteristically controlled during the procedure. He had known this day would come, accepting the age restrictions as sensible medical policy. While others around him grew emotional, Harrison focused on the practical aspects of the donation, asking about processing schedules and final product distribution. His concern was ensuring that his last plasma donation would be handled properly and reach the women and babies who needed protection from Rhesus disease. Media attention surrounding Harrison's final donation brought international focus to his extraordinary contribution. Television crews from multiple countries filmed the historic moment, and newspapers worldwide prepared feature stories about the man with the golden arm. Harrison tolerated the attention with his usual grace, but insisted that the focus should be on encouraging others to become donors rather than celebrating his individual achievement. The mathematical calculation of Harrison's impact was staggering. Over 1,173 donations spanning 6 decades, Harrison had provided plasma that was processed into more than 3 million doses of anti-D immunoglobulin. Each dose could prevent sensitization in an at-risk pregnancy, and conservative estimates suggested that his contributions had helped save 2.4 million babies from Rhesus disease. No single person in medical history had directly contributed to saving more lives through blood donation. Dr. Robin Hyland, medical director of Australian Red Cross Lifeblood, spoke at a ceremony honoring Harrison's final donation. She emphasized that Harrison's contribution had not only saved individual lives but had fundamentally changed medical practice worldwide. Rhesus disease prevention programs based on Australian techniques were now standard care in developed countries, eliminating what had once been a major cause of infant mortality and disability. Harrison's plasma from his final donation would be processed with the same care as his first. Laboratory technicians would separate the anti-D antibodies, purify them according to pharmaceutical standards, and package them into doses that would protect pregnant women for months to come. Even his last contribution would continue saving lives long after Harrison had left the donation center for the final time. The retirement ceremony included presentations from families whose children had been saved by Harrison's donations. Parents shared stories of healthy babies who might not have survived without anti-D immunoglobulin. These personal testimonials moved Harrison more than any official recognition, providing tangible proof of how his dedication had created profound joy in countless families. Questions arose about finding replacement donors who could continue Harrison's work. While other donors possessed anti-D antibodies, none matched the consistently high levels found in Harrison's plasma. Blood banks worldwide had been preparing for this moment, building stockpiles of processed immunoglobulin and developing programs to identify new donors with valuable antibody profiles. As Harrison completed his final donation and the plasmapheresis machine shut down for the last time, he reflected briefly on the journey that had begun with his own need for blood transfusions 6 decades earlier. The young railway worker who had promised to give back had kept that commitment beyond anyone's imagination. His golden arm had fulfilled its purpose, leaving behind a legacy that would continue protecting new generations of babies from a preventable tragedy. James Harrison's retirement from blood donation in May 2018 marked the end of an era, but the impact of his extraordinary contributions continues to ripple through medical practice worldwide. The anti-D immunoglobulin created from his plasma over 6 decades remains in use today, protecting pregnant women and their babies from Rhesus disease. His blood may no longer flow through donation tubes, but his legacy lives on in every healthy baby born to an at-risk mother. Pharmaceutical stockpiles built from Harrison's donations continue providing life-saving treatment years after his final appointment. Companies like CSL Behring, which processed much of Harrison's plasma, maintain careful inventories of anti-D immunoglobulin derived from his blood. These products carry expiration dates extending into the 2020s, meaning that Harrison's final donations will continue preventing tragedies for years to come. The global infrastructure for Rhesus disease prevention that emerged from Harrison's contribution operates as smoothly today as when he was actively donating. Hospitals worldwide maintain protocols for identifying at-risk pregnancies and administering preventive treatment. Laboratory technicians routinely perform blood typing tests that determine which mothers need anti-D immunoglobulin. The system built around one man's unique gift has become an integral part of modern obstetric care. Medical education programs continue teaching about Harrison's contribution as a landmark case in preventive medicine. Students learning about blood compatibility and pregnancy complications study his story as an example of how individual dedication can generate massive public health benefits. Medical textbooks feature his case in chapters on immunology and maternal care, ensuring that future healthcare providers understand the importance of blood donation and medical research. Research initiatives inspired by Harrison's success continue advancing maternal medicine. Scientists study other blood-related pregnancy complications, applying techniques developed for processing anti-D immunoglobulin to create new treatments. The Australian Centre for Blood Diseases maintains research programs that trace their origins to discoveries made while studying Harrison's unique plasma, continuing the innovation that his donations made possible. International recognition of Harrison's contribution has inspired blood donation programs worldwide. Countries facing shortages of specialized donors point to Harrison's story as motivation for citizens to participate in life-saving programs. Blood banks use his example to demonstrate how regular donation can have profound impacts, encouraging commitment that extends beyond occasional contributions to sustained involvement in public health. The families saved by Harrison's blood continue growing and thriving, creating expanding networks of people whose existence was made possible by his dedication. Children who survived because their mothers received anti-D immunoglobulin have grown up, married, and had children of their own. These second and third generation beneficiaries represent the exponential impact of prevention, as each saved life creates opportunities for future generations. Statistical tracking of Rhesus disease prevention shows the dramatic transformation that Harrison's contribution helped create. Countries with comprehensive anti-D immunoglobulin programs report near elimination of severe Rhesus disease cases. Infant mortality rates related to blood incompatibility have dropped by more than 95% in developed nations, a public health triumph that ranks among the great medical achievements of the 20th century. The Australian Red Cross Lifeblood has established programs to identify and nurture other donors with rare or valuable blood characteristics, applying lessons learned from managing Harrison's donation schedule. These initiatives ensure that future medical emergencies won't depend on single individuals, but rather on systematic approaches to identifying and supporting donors who can make unique contributions to public health. Harrison himself remains connected to the medical community he served for so long, attending occasional ceremonies and supporting blood donation campaigns. At 86 years old, he continues advocating for donor participation and medical research, using his platform to encourage others to contribute to causes larger than themselves. His ongoing involvement demonstrates that legacy isn't just about past achievements, but about continuing to inspire positive change in the world. The story of James Harrison transcends medical achievement to reveal something fundamental about human nature and the power of individual commitment. A railway worker's decision to donate blood in gratitude for transfusions that saved his life became a 6-decade journey that prevented immeasurable suffering and saved millions of lives. Harrison's golden arm was valuable not just for its unique antibodies, but for the character that guided its use. Harrison's legacy challenges our understanding of heroism in the modern world. While society celebrates dramatic rescues and public acts of courage, Harrison's quiet dedication demonstrates that the most profound impacts often come from sustained commitment to helping others. His weekly donations received no applause, generated no headlines, and, and required no special skills beyond showing up consistently and caring about strangers he would never meet. The ripple effects of Harrison's contribution extend far beyond the 2.4 million babies whose lives were directly saved. His story has inspired countless others to become blood donors, understanding that their contributions could have impacts they might never fully comprehend. His example demonstrates how individual responsibility, sustained over time, can create changes that reshape entire fields of medicine and eliminate categories of human suffering. In an era where cynicism about human goodness often dominates public discourse, James Harrison's story provides counter-evidence. His 6 decades of donation prove that people can commit to causes larger than themselves. The man with the golden arm reminds us that ordinary people can achieve extraordinary things through persistence, compassion, and dedication to helping others. Harrison's blood may have been unique, but his character traits, reliability, humility, gratitude, and concern for others are available to everyone.